ever to deliver a map loss to Virtus Pro.
True. As we can have a look and see how the picks and bans are going through, and oh, well, all business were fully anticipating 2Z Psylocke being removed. They've prioritized saving it over the Vanguard or even a strategist like a Loki. And now Team Peps, they're going to have to remove the Captain America and the Lunar Snow if they want to try and take some of these resources that 2Z has access to.
I mean, that's kind of a bait as well, right? Because the other place where all business really get a lot of value is by Znost playing for Loki. And we've seen Loki essentially be the most banned. It feels like teams are slowly adapting to banning the Loki instead of Luna and just allowing the Luna to exist, even though her neutral gameplay is just such high value. There's the Captain America ban we were anticipating. And, oh, okay. Without the Captain America, they are still going to go for the Wolverine here, which is really going to maybe keep Tutu and Welshmania. Feel a little bit of fear whenever Tutu's a fantastic both Venom and Groot player. So there's a world where maybe they pivot onto the Tutu Venom with Welshmania playing a more static Vanguard.
Yeah, especially because it's Hell's Heaven, and as we talked about, this map is very, very strong for the dive. It's also very, very strong for the Human Torch, which all business are going to remove. So Lunar Snow actually making it through the ban system so far for both teams, though Peps do have a little bit of a star at the end of that sentence, given the fact that they still have a ban position. If all business want to make sure that that Luna is untouchable, they can save it right now, but it looks like they're actually going to prioritize one-sided Loki. So even if Peps are able to grab a Luna for their team, well, all business can just rip the coffee with God of Mischief.
Oh, Team Peps are very brave going into Loki Luna. I mean, it might work out. Maybe they've strategized against this already. Surely going into all business, you knew that you were going to try and get rid of some of those. Oh, Tutu's hovering on the Groot for now. Could we see a pivot onto something like a Namor?
Potentially. I mean, they know that Peps might be playing Beetle onto the Captain America, and Gamma is actually very, very strong for just shredding down a Captain America, because like the thing about the Captain America, like you said, he goes in, he disrupts, he makes the backline have to turn, and then the front line have to turn because they're not getting those resources, so you can't actually take a brawl fight. But when you have Gamma squids available with the Hulk and Namor, that Captain America gets shredded very, very quickly without your team needing to give up all that much space with how mobile both the Namor and the Hulk can be. Although it looks like Beetle is actually going to be off of the Captain America and onto the Doctor Strange. So we're going to be seeing things like the Eyes of Agamotto, followed up by that Maelstrom of Madness that is doing so much damage, and the damage fall-off has been, well, taken out of the game entirely.
I mean, Beetle's kind of burst onto our radar here in MRI Season 1. Was listed as a substitute for Team Peps, but it has been a great asset to them, as you mentioned, both on the Captain America as a primary threat that demands potentially a ban, and a really good Doctor Strange player. As you can see as well from the top, from our pips that need to be filled in, this is going to be a best of 5, by the way. We're back to full-length series here at MRI.
2Z's going to be on the Torch. Slowpo actually is going to be picking up the Psylocke, and because Torch is in play, his sibling is going to be joining the team. Znost actually opts for that Invis woman so that they can have both the Guardian Shield and the team up in case Team Peps are going to be running something of a Torch themselves. And with Hardest having been banned out of the Punisher, he's going to be going for the Psylocke to try and take the Flyer down, but Leaf has already got his hands on the Torch, and 2Z gets snuffed out like a candle.
Well, I told you about being played in the neutral, and Leaf certainly is absolutely dominating in the neutral already. Tutu is not going to be long for this. Well, just kicked to the curb by the remainder of Team Peps. What a strong start for the Frenchman.
That's absolutely huge, because 2Z's going to be so far behind in terms of damage that he can potentially do, and also zoning potential with Pyroprism, making it really hard for Peps to commit to a space, and he's down again. Peps are really hard focusing this Firestorm down, and at the moment it's looking incredibly one-sided, as every single time all business try and just have anyone anchor onto this point, they get Strange shielded off by Beetle into Leaf just ripping the claws.
Yeah, this is going to be miserable for Welshmania, by the way. Playing Doctor Strange into Emma and Wolverine. You talked about, we heard Line Pro talk about it earlier. Like, playing Strange into the Emma is a very unpleasant experience.
Especially because Diamond Form is CC immunity, so Eye of Agamotto can come out, but the Emma can still get the Carbon Crush onto the Strange, both to cancel the ultimate and to stop the follow-through. Speaking about ultimates, Dance of the Butterflies is in full swing, and all business are going on an all expenses paid. Turret back to the respawn, courtesy of Hardest.
You know, I don't think I've seen that much Hardest Psylocke yet, but fair to say, I'm impressed at the moment. I thought that it would be Tuzi mirroring the Psylocke here, but of course Tuzi has been prioritizing that Human Torch a little bit over the last couple of days. Oh, they know that there's a Psylocke hiding in the back. I think that's Sloppo who's been discovered, and Leaf has chased them out.
Well, All Business will have both of the strategist ultimates, however, Leaf does have that last stand, and as you mentioned, last stand can be used to counterplay Invis's ultimate by grabbing them all out of it, as it's going to be closer, starting things off with the fate of both worlds, to trying to just bring the attention of the Wolverine away from the rest of his team, as Monster Hulk comes out and immediately gets CC'd.
I mean, that large health pool, though, can be a little bit of a nightmare to deal with when you're up against a Wolverine. Tutu, though, always nasty with it. Bro is nasty on the sticks with the Hulk. And that was All Business putting in a lot of their survivability with both of their strategist ultimates.
Yes, that is very concerning given the fact that Peps, well, they've got Eye of Agamotto and they're going to be able to line it up perfectly to the tune of Fate of Both Worlds with that damage amp for the Maelstrom of Madness. It's all on Znost now to get a good force physics and mitigate Beetle's ult.
That is the win condition, or avoiding the lose condition. Sloppo demands a huge amount of respect over here, and Leaf actually takes a lot of damage going in. Has to check if that passive is going to be available. The regenerative healing factor can be so important during these skirmishes. Hardest will be chased out, but will escape with their life.
Yeah, Hardest and Sloppo have to be very careful how they take the 1v1, as Sloppo, having that Strange and the Hulk, doesn't have access to the EMEA team up. Pep's going to be going for a very aggressive Strange portal so they can get into position with a turtle bomb, and the last stand grabs everybody. All Business do have duelist ultimates, but with so many players down, Harry, I don't know if it's worth committing.
All Business, yeah, might be worth to just try and save Sloppo's Dance of the Butterflies, and well, Beetle takes the option away with a magically conjured whip racking across Sloppo's back. There's not even going to be a portal in time right here, and Team Peps, well, that was just a great fight read, right? They knew that neither strategist ultimate was available, so overwhelming force from two duelist ultimates at once can't be stood up to.
Yeah, I mean, just immediately as well, mitigating any poke phase, any potential for All Business to delay with either Supernova or Dance of the Butterflies when they're trying to rotate onto the point, which would then have allowed Znost and Closer to build their ultimates up. What's really interesting to me is that Znost had access to the Loki the entire time, right? We even talked about the fact that All Business were able to get both the Loki and the Luna through, but because Tuzi's on this torch, they're prioritizing having him on the Invis, or at least they were. It's because they're not going now into a torch 1v1 that we're going to be seeing maybe that Loki stick around, but it's Closer actually is now going to be moving over to the Invis themselves.
Yeah, Closer going to be taking that one up. There's a little bit of a trap here, I guess, in both Tuzi. There's an opportunity for All Business to use both their duelist ultimates in this first point in order to allow for Tuzi to pivot onto a Psylocke if they want to do that. But the question is, do you want to swap over Sloppo onto a Human Torch themselves?
Well, Peps, having used the portal in the last round, don't have it now, and All Business will be able to take advantage to get into a better position to utilize their Dance of the Butterflies. It's going to potentially force Aura Stealer's ultimate at the least, and then you can anticipate Beetle's ultimate coming through afterwards to split the two.
Goshmania rocks up. Can't hit anyone with the Maelstrom of Madness. For now, gets grabbed. Oh yeah, there's the Doctor Strange experience, and there he goes. DRP kicks him into the wall with the crystal kick and manages to turn the Sorcerer Supreme into dust over there. Tuzi having to disengage for a moment. That's an Eye of Agamotto hitting 3. Closer inside their own ultimate. They might well be able to survive. This invisible boundary's got plenty of healing to try and sustain through it. However, on the other side, the Dance of the Butterflies is shared out between the Vanguards, and we've got the health ball to try and make this one work. Beetle drags up the shield of a Seraphim, but it's no good against the Hulks. Oh wow, okay, a little bit of a second top right there. Great movement in the air to avoid getting grabbed out by Tutu. And this given enough time for DRP to start building up the energy on this beam. Sentient seized for a moment. Unbreakable barrier coming from Tutu now, and that means rolling forward onto DRP, unable to be stopped. All Business claim the first fight.
Oh, that was really scary for All Business. Hardest was getting closer and closer to Dance of the Butterflies, just trying to farm it off of shooting the Vanguards, so you could potentially use it to put pressure on the point and also take advantage of the fact that you're intangible, invulnerable to damage when you're in the ultimate. So Hardest, even on a smithereene of HP, would still be able to play into that fight. Now he's not going to have any space in the fight to deal with, though, because Tuzi on the torch is scout checking for where that Psylocke could be rotating around.
Oh, great block of a disengage there on Tutu. I imagine that was probably equally Leaf with a Trooper's Fish trying to make that one work. Welsh gets stunned out of their own Eye of Agamotto, I believe, probably grabbed by the Carbon Crush. That's going to be the Sonic Seduction. Now board to the 4. Leaf still got a free reset and is able to just roll these over again and again off of the Loki clones. Everyone's hunting right now. They smell a Slowpo and they're trying to hunt him down in the wilderness.
Well, at the least, Slowpo didn't provide another 7 seconds reset for Leaf's ultimate to roll over yet again. As All Business are actually going to be swapping Welsh Mania now over towards that Groot, and Slowpo going to be going for that Namor. So we're having a lot of counter Psylocke coming on through. So the hardest is going to get scouted out and found before he can get into position to use his ultimate, as they're going to be relying on Snos with his doppelgammers and regen domain to keep everyone on All Business topped up before Tuzi's ult can come through.
Oh, Larry already being down. That's disastrous. However, Tuzi gets caught on the other side. It did take an entire ultimate to try and make that one work, though. 2-2 once again going in with the unbreakable damage of the World Breaker Hulk. This guy is absolutely decimating. Beetle of Scarab gets their shell torn open. The chitinous exoskeleton reveals the creamy innards.
Alright, All Business should win this next fight. There's a caveat to it, though. Tuzi needs to live for Welsh Mania's ultimate to come on through. When combined Strangling Prison and Supernova can deal enough damage to still find picks through Aura Stealer's ultimate, and that's exactly what All Business are looking to try and set up.
All right, just trying to punch into the face here, force out Closer's ultimate. However, it's going to be an Strangling Prison coming through from Welsh Mania, did plenty of damage. The sustainability is good. It might be the whale that's better. The Horn of Proteus takes out Aura Stealer midway through their ultimate. What a large value pickup coming through from Slowpo. And while Leaf is working in the neutral right now, we're going to be overwhelmed by the collection of squids and damage brought to the 4 by All Business. And Tuzi just has a coup de grace with a Firestorm.
See, it's interesting how All Business took the fight because they had the opportunity for the Wombo and they decided not to use it so that Tuzi could hold on to his ultimate after Aura Stealer had expended theirs. And Peps now have burnt so many ultimates as opposed to portaling out and losing the fight immediately. All Business were thinking about the fight that's to come, and Peps, they've got a Kraken Impact, but it has to be the Hail Mary from Leaf to carry the team through.
And DRP surviving there is absolutely critical. Leaf's going to be able to convert into plenty of hit kills here potentially. The frags may well be forthcoming. It's going to be a big Kraken Impact. Close is already down. The Groot's next stop. Just going in towards the squids now. I'll settle for cephalopods. Why not? Namor can't sit around. He's just floating down in a bubble, and All Business and wiped from a point.
They tried to use Horn of Proteus to clip Leaf's wing so that he got hit by the Earthbound status and couldn't move. Used Trooper's Fist to get out of it, but Larry actually comes on through with the clutch. Eternal Bond keeps Leaf alive all throughout it, and Kraken Impact is still counting down. As we're headed towards last fight territory, Hardest and DMP can very easily just combine their ultimates to be able to break through All Business's backline.
Okay, Slipo sends up the Gamma Squid. Big cooldown already used. Hardest has forced out the Loki lamps in the back. However, we're using the Feast of the Abyss as well. It's a bit of a fun-board fight here. 14 Peps, they've already lost out on Hardest. Redemption Butterfly's not going to be available until they reset in the midst of all of this. But 2-2 falling on the other side gives them a little bit of momentary release. Nothing too much gained off the back of the Horn of Proteus. Tuzi hit twice by the Tainted Voltage, stuck to Terra Firma. He's ground-born forever despite being a flighty little lad. All Business, they need to try and win this one. It's the last chance fight for the entirety of the map as Team Peps are on the precipice of managing to claim it. Tutu's going to come on back with the portal instantly, but look at that, taken away from the portal gate by the Trooper's Fist, and inside of a Dance of Butterflies, it's so difficult to survive. An attempt at a body block coming through from DRP, and the Sonic Seduction may well have made sure that no one could roll through. Hell's Heaven claimed by Team Peps.
Lovely little bit of min-maxing there coming out from the side of Peps with Leaf's Troopers first. They know that potentially more people are going to be coming out of that portal, and if more people come through, they're going to be able to stack and absorb Hardest ultimate. The dashes, they auto-lock onto whoever was hit the least. So a lot of the time you can actually live without burning a whole strategist ultimate if your entire team just stacks. But obviously All Business, they're not regrouped, they're not full 6. So they make sure to displace Toot Toot in case anyone manages to make it out of that portal, so that the Psylocke dash is still going to be able to take the Strange down before All Business can put another body into the play to soak it.
I mean, big credit here to Beetle with that first portal placement as well here on the frozen airfield. It felt like all business was kind of knocked off killed the second this map started, right? Like Tuzi getting pinned by the Wolverine Feral Leap right off the bat, losing your kind of carry duelist player to someone who usually counters Vanguard. It's a little bit of a what now?
Yeah, the tempo change up too, because like we saw from All Business's composition, the amount of value that they put into Tuzi on that torch, right? They could have had Loki, but they played the invis over it so that they could use things like the Guardian Shield and also the team up so that Tuzi would be able to get that armor without having to have LOS on his backline to receive that sustainability so that he could potentially play on an off angle and try and put pressure on Team Peps to force them to have to turn the shield and look at the torch rather than the rest of that team, which would open up the space much more for Slowpoke to be able to get damage on through. But then when we headed to second round, I mean, it was just the Leaf power out. The Kraken impacts just kept coming.
Yeah, that's the risk of running this Loki, right? That Znost is fairly reliant upon. I think it's fair to say a lot of AB wins have come off as Znost just able to put up numbers on the Loki. But I want to sing the praise of DRP as well. Just that last touch with the Venom, great foresight, realizing that I think that this fight might not go the way of my team. It's kind of on an edge right now, but if it doesn't, then we really need the emergency touch from a burst mobility that the Venom has. Then being able to survive and playing it very cautiously inside the healing orb from a Cloak and Dagger as well, and also engage the 6 while also securing overtime was a big heads-up play from DRP.
Yeah, and also, even though, like you said, there was a little bit of a missed time, right, when they tried to go for that soft dive to initially bait out the Loki regen domain and then reposition now that that cooldown had been taken out of the way and the Psylocke and the Venom have the opportunity to look for those picks. Psylocke unfortunately gets caught out by the amount of just counter dive that everyone on the side of All Business was running, but having been able to force out the Loki regen domain that early in the fight, literally on the rotation into that fight, allowed so much more of the damage coming through from Pep's side to properly stick.
All right, so Loki Luna wasn't quite enough to get one over on the Frenchman of Team Peps here for All Business. We're going to need some time for the drawing board as we head into map 2 of our best of 5 right after this break. What's up, gamers? All Business are down 0-1 against Team Peps, who managed to take a surprise victory on Hell's Heaven, even though they were going up against Loki Luna, which for many is like the GOAT backline.
Yes, but I mean, Tuzi on the torch, like, I think the fact that All Business got so many duelists that they wanted through was kind of a trap that Peps laid in terms of that pick and ban. They wanted to try and get the Loki through so that Leaf had more of an impact with the Krakens coming on out from the Winter Soldier ults. And then also they read that it would be the Invis woman when Tuzi was on that torch, but then the second that he swapped off of it, obviously you're going to be swapping your Invis woman out. So it very much feels like Peps kind of finesse the system, a little bit of a trickery, some chicanery going through, but that can only work once. I feel like All Business now are definitely going to be prepared. There's going to be a sort of like exclamation mark that pops over their heads where they're like, hold on a second, we're getting too many things that we want to get. This feels weird.
The baits aren't working out in some cases. Maybe, I mean, I'm not gonna like pee in the cereal or Slowpoke here. Is it worth protecting the Psylocke if it's not going to be Tuzi playing it? Maybe it's time to get that protect on the Captain America, brother.
I was going to agree. I think it's better to get it on the Captain America, although you do still have to worry about the Emma Frost. That's why Peps are like more than happy to have All Business forced onto the Doctor Strange, right? Because Carbon Crush.
Yeah.
Carbon Crush just stops Doctor Strange from being playable when that cooldown's on. So there's definitely going to need to be some adaptations coming on through, as All Business are actually going to choose to take us to Yggdrasil, and then even more importantly, they're going to choose to take us to the defender side. Peps are going to be starting on the attack, which means Peps get the first protect, and they're immediately going to use it for that Emma Frost, anticipating either a Psylocke or a Captain America or a Venom. As All Business, they looks like they agree with us on not going for the Psylocke protection, Harry, but we do deviate in opinion in terms of where the Captain America stands.
Yeah, they Nova value of the Emma Frost. I think individually she might be the best Vanguard at the moment. Just in terms of the control potential and the damage. Yep, there we go. That's going to be the double ban onto a Psylocke and the Captain America. So now All Business, they essentially have a lowdown on what their comp needs to be. They're going to protect. I wonder if we're going to see an Invisible Woman ban here. No, because they got to ban Luna unless they want to. Wait, they're going to allow Loki Luna through again. I mean, Team Peps, I think they're just happy to go against Loki Luna because they're happy to play the Winter Soldier, you know?
Yeah, they're more than happy to play the Winter Soldier, and they can't let All Business get one-sided Punisher. Like, you straight up can't, because then if they do get the Loki Luna, then Final Judgment has 2 ways of being damage boosted, and you can literally just have your Luna set Fate of Both Worlds to damage boost up, and your Loki manages to keep that disc spinning with regen domain. You don't even have to worry about the heal tick lockout.
I mean, that would just be overwhelming. Like, neither team is going to... I mean, there's going to be Luna on both sides. Aura Stealer, we know, is a fantastic Loki player, so I think prioritizing the ban on Loki against Peps is probably the right idea. Like, Aura Stealer is by no means a slouch on the Luna, but the streets have been saying, I've put my ear to the gravel, I've put my ear to the concrete, and the streets have been saying that Aura Stealer's kind of that guy on Loki. Yeah,
also very, very strong on Invis. So torches both being in play, I'm sure we're going to be seeing the lot of Invis come through, especially given the fact that the Vanguard is likely going to be including Doctor Strange on the lineup and trading a Force Physics cooldown for an entire Eye of Agamotto 100% build-up is a very, very fair deal to the strategist. It definitely feels a little bit one-sided against the Vanguard.
Best trade deal in the history of trade deals, Marks. You win those ones.
I think the best one might be the Loki doppelgangers for Kraken Impact to continue to be entirely fair as
did you see that grab?
Yeah, that's a Wolverine.
The Vanguard. Things are going quite wrong quite quickly. Goodbye to Toot Toot once again. A cinematic roll through as the Hulk is just decimated under the adamantium titan of Logan.
Here on All Business are supposed to take a big step backwards because they're going to be missing one of those players. No Vanguard, no ability to slow Team Peps down. It's going to be the Torches trying to keep the other team in check now, but Tuzi has to deal with taking the fight against Leap at the same time, so he can't hold his position and stop Peps' momentum.
All right, Tuzi, going in very brazenly here. Really wants to try and get rid of Larry over on the Cloak and Dagger, but gets punished for it as Leaf coming through second. Grabbed out of the air there by Tutu. A great response from the Hulk, who's continuously having to worry about where this Wolverine was. However, after that initial rollout, Leaf actually swapped over onto the Human Torch, so now there's a lot more freedom for Tutu to try and play with. There's plenty of strategy ultimate still going on here. Everyone's got survivability for days, but Welshmania's got a fully charged beam, so once these go away, the damage is really going to start racking up, and that's going to start with Sonic Seduction. It's going to be easy avoidance of the CC here, coming through from the Fate of Both Worlds, and of course the Diamond Form. Welshmania in danger for their own, however, just brings up their own Diamond Form, becomes CC immune. It's an equal trade between these teams.
No Galactic Legend, and Team Peps going to be taking a big step backwards as Slowpo's on the Nemo has the Horn of Proteus. Fate of Both Worlds actually runs out for closer without the Horn of Proteus lineup, but Leaf still goes down as they try to put a stop to Hardest with the Galactic Legend Exile coming out from Tyr, but it's almost broken immediately. And once free, that Starlord without a Magneto Meteor to shut them down keeps flying free.
Unfortunately, Tutu was holding M1, and so punch them out of the exile, but could have been incredibly effective. Over to the World Breaker. Hulk could be overwhelmed rather quickly, but for now is working their health pool quite nicely. Sitting inside the Firestorms means so much damage per second, but it's bought the time that was needed. Now it's the return of Welshmania coming through the portals that the Seraphim have provided. Slowpo's already fallen down in their own right. Tutu has to back off for a momentary burst of healing. Aura Stealer takes out their counterpart in the Luna versus Luna. A frosty reception for the All Business teleporter here as Team Peps roll through first.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that portal recontest. It's not so much an angelic choir that heralds All Business's recontest onto that point, because now Well, they're in the 7th circle, having to go up against all of the space that Team Peps are going to have available. Flyers are going to be out wild and free. They've got all of the natural cover that they want, the one-way angles too, to be able to expend pressure onto all business as they come out from all these choke positions. Slowpoke, at least on that Namer, is going to be able to throw out the monster response and put a little bit of pressure, but Beetle on this Captain America can just keep pushing and preventing all business from sticking any sort of push fully forwards onto Peps' core.
Galactic Legend popped in conjunction with a Sonic Seduction. Anyone who gets dragged on in is going to be in major danger, and so the answer has to be given over in the form of the Fate of Both Worlds. Nost copied that one over from Closer already, and now rolling forward. That's a great play from Larry. Oh no, gets instantly destroyed by the Horn of Proteus. Oh, doing it into the Fate of Both Worlds. It was a bad ult track, Moxie, but didn't know the Horn of Proteus was available.
Yep, and Horn of Proteus catches the dash of the Cloak and Dagger and sends Peps dashing all the way back to spawn, and that is the bailout that all business needed, because now they have all of this angle control and denial as well into the double flyer comp that Peps are going to be running. They have to make sure that they don't give up that right side. Beetle does have that freedom charge if Peps want to aggressively push and just try and outbrawl all business. A Supernova from Leaf is used to break around first corner.
First corner given over. Sloppo, they have had their location shown over here. Going to be the blessing of the deep already. Znost with 3. Oh, wow. Well, we're talking about how much value comes off of that Loki. Just the raw output of 3 Lokis, including 2 doppelgangers, is insane.
Yeah, it's very much the Spider-Man meme, right? Where they're all pointing, but instead of pointing at each other, they're pointing at one specific target. And it is not an enjoyable experience to have to take a 1 versus 3 against a Loki player. It was all business, wait for Peps to try and go aggressive, and then jump on the backline when it's unprotected. This time, Peps aren't going to make that mistake. Freedom Charge comes out, and Beetle's already in all business's backline.
Oh, overwhelming force. That backline, we've got absolutely shell-shocked. A blitz attack coming through from Team Peps, striking back against the backline that previously terrorized them. Slubbo knows that it's just time to stall out on the cart. The same going to be for 2-2.
Okay, Larry is going to have Eternal Bond, but Slowpo, he's got Horn of Proteus. Peps are likely going to ult track this, but the problem for them is they have no way of protecting against it. They don't have a Magneto for the bubble. DOP isn't going to be able to shield it. It's going to be really rough to actually have Larry's ultimate last the full 13 seconds.
All right, Galactic Legend brought on out already. The damage from the Emma Frost is overwhelming. Hardest already had to give over some space here. That's going to be yet another damage boosted Horn of Proteus, but doesn't seem to find any traction in the midst of all of this. Hardest Galactic Legend is now over, can still go to play inside the Eternal One laid down by the Cloak and Dagger. Walshmania running low on HP, and 2-2 spilling exactly the same. Leaf has managed to find the purchase. Aura Stealer rolls back through the caves. They went into the Carlsbad Caverns, and they found themselves quite a good result.
Yeah, Larry just waits for Slowpoke to expend that Horn of Proteus before coming in with Eternal Bond afterwards. And then even Aura Stealer gets to use Fate of Both Worlds on damage boost option so that they can fully shut out Tuzi. They know that Tuzi has that Supernova that potentially gives all business to come back into that fight. But Walshman needs to be able to build up the Psionic Seduction. They shut it down before the Siren Song becomes reachable. And now headed into C, we've still got momentum on the side of Peps too. It's going to be a Supernova for Supernova. Leaf going to be using his immediately, but gets silenced by Walshmania and zoned towards the Everfrost.
Just dragged into a flame tornado with their counterparts making. It's going to be difficult to try and survive here if you're Aura Stealer, but Tuzi has just been distracted elsewhere, trying to peel over towards the backline. Instead, now Hardest gets in close. Oh, the Blaster Barrage is instantly grabbed out of the air by 2-2, while cinematic save for the Human Torch as the Hulk comes from on far to deliver justice.
Well, business are going to have both of their strategist ults in this next fight, but Peps are going to have Freedom Charge as well, Psionic Seduction and Eternal Bond, plus a Galactic Legend to get to play off of it. Unfortunately for Peps, it's not the greatest ultimate. Your Starlord's up in the sky, your Eternal Bond's on the ground, and Beetle's already in your backline, forcing regen. I mean, that is a serious go sign for Peps to move aggressive.
Too much gained off the back of that Terror Cave, though, here from Larry. Just going to have to focus in on the healing rather than the damage. Slowpo has been taken elsewhere. Both of the Vanguards are sitting on top of DRP, and this is giving enough of an opening here for Hardest. Can 2-2 get another miracle grab? And Exile starting to shut this one down. You can see the 2-2 trying to make the play for it. The unbreakable barrier is already destroyed, and yet he gets angrier and angrier. And more of a disengagement happened to try and deal with 2-2 in the back. That left DRP alone on an island, and still the Hulk is getting the value here. Larry's fallen down, and while Closer may be down, you've got to worry about the healing coming through from Aura Stealer. The fate of both worlds going to keep the remainder of Team Peps a little bit sustained here. It's going to be a portal coming through from the back. That's DRP coming to return. Of course, we're almost into overtime, Mox.
And Tuzi's back to respawn. He had the supernova. He isn't able to get a pick onto one of the strategists, and that portal would have run out. Peps would have been one player down permanently, but they're not able to find the pick. They have to wait for the regroup. They've got Psionic Seduction to break through the spawn doors. The Leafs playing on the outsides of that space still gets to throw a supernova to make All Business really take a lot of damage just to be able to come back and push that point.
Leaf was hovering imperiously above it all. The supernova already finished now. A Loki crystal brought up for a moment to try and keep his Vanguard sustained. His hardest job at the moment is try and stay on the point. You can see the overtime starting to tick on down as Tuzi's under pressure. Hardest is so low. Larry and Aura Stealer are nowhere near as Team Peps find their Vanguards decimated. All Business on their business map defend properly.
Wonderful Psionic Seduction coming through from All Business, just making sure that Peps aren't able to complete the spawn hold. They'd already expended the strange portal to get DRP back into the fight so they could continue that momentum with their entire team. They don't have the portal up to be able to block off the spawn doors, so they try and use Supernova instead to shut it down. But it turns out that Emma Frost manages to melt Human Torch.
Permafrost right there. Does not care for the temperature. Will stand in glacier until time immemorial. Team Peps, they have a clear win condition though. Holding on first or second is not out of the question. We've seen it many a time before here at Marvel Rivals Ignite.
To the point where so many of the attacking teams, I mean, Peps even did it themselves, just go Wolverine for the first fight to get an insta pick off onto the defender's side. Doesn't look like that's going to be an approach that All Business take, but I do like the fact that Hardest is on the Winter Soldier in anticipation in case there is a Wolverine foul play fastball hurtling into Peps' direction in a matter of moments.
Yeah, we'll be great way to shut it down. Looking for that grab. Instantly try and barn it, cook them back in their own right. And of course, you know you're going to be going up against for Loki. That's where Znos is just getting so much value. So you might as well start chaining together those Kraken impacts. Already exiled though. A little opening gift from 2-2 for the emergence of the Winter Soldier.
Two is slowly making his way over to the high ground, putting pressure onto that backline, and Leaf is actually having to fall back and pressure out the Hulk in kind, which means that Tuzi gets more space as well. They haven't found a pick, but they have been able to break first corner until Toot's health just evaporates.
Yeah, space was given up there, it's true, but it was so that the like 6 members of Team Peps could peel back and just absolutely dogpile Toot.
And because they all turned back, no one was left behind, and no one was vulnerable for All Business to pick up instead. As a trade to the defenders is so much more valuable of how far away their respawn is in comparison to the attackers this early on in the map. Hardest, without a Hulk to use as a pincushion right now, is trying to keep Tuzi in check. His poor Toot's HP just continues to be on a permanent disclimb.
Yeah, at least you have Valona behind you to try and keep you up. That's the good thing. However, Tuzi is going to be the recipient of the Snowflake, getting a majority of that healing. There's 2-2 in the back again. Can they survive long enough? No. Back into little beauty scientist banner form, and I'm afraid you're going to need more than a high IQ to get past these Frenchmen.
Yeah, and Larry isn't even having to use Eternal Bond because you can just heal all of the little damage that the Hulk actually does on his lonesome when he's not in his Monster Hulk form with just base utility. So Eternal Bond has been built up. Sloper will be able to take Leaf down, however, and Wash Mania is going to capitalize on the moment immediately. Psionic Seduction, they've seized the opening.
You know, bro was nasty like that. Aura Stealer, while mind controlled by the seductions of Emma, is gunned down by the Winter Soldier. Larry doing their best to just try and keep everyone sustained here with the Eternal Bomb, but it's already faded away.
They're not getting payload though. Harry, Peps is still stalling. Beetle's still up on the card.
They just can't open the carapace.
He's actually, right now, just there's no way for all business to take this Captain America down. It's done the job. DRP is back on the Strange. We're going to be able to portal all of our players back into this fight. Leap is buying us the space too to make sure that the landing is going to be cushioned with the supernova.
Unbelievable job by the Beetle. Weevil Underwood would be proud rolling forward now with the fate of both worlds. Disengagement is not really on the menu for Team Peps, but due to the wall and all of these tornadoes that have been laid down by Tuzi. The portal's still active though for now if anyone wants to come on back, or Steeler taken down. The healing might not be there now as everyone just rolls around. That's a two-person use of the Eye of Agamotto. Both of the Vanguards were stunned, but the follow-up damage isn't there at the moment from Team Peps. All business have more than enough sustain in the back. Hello, Hardest rolling through, actually gets a team up clash kill. In the midst of all this, a frag from Beetle. And, well, this might actually have been an opening. Watchmania and Tutu have gone down. All business have ran out of momentum.
Yeah, and Larry's going to have Eternal Bond if all business don't go in soon with the Psionic Seduction, and that's good CC immunity, which means that Larry doesn't have to worry about being compelled into the Emma Frost Ultimate. All business needs something right here, right now, potentially a Bionic Hook onto Beetle. He's going low. He's at least not getting to jump any further into all business's position, but unfortunately, Larry's built Eternal Bond, and now Team Peps have sustainability in the face of the Emerald.
All right, that's the Eternal Bond all the way into the back. You better believe a big Terrorcape's coming. Nice pull coming through from Slopo, and the follow-up is excellent. The ultimate Bionic Hook. It's exactly what you wanted from Slopo. All business have been depending on this player, and then it's Tuzi coming in with your regularly scheduled delivery of frags.
It's gonna be Winter Soldier versus Winter Soldier. This forecast is about to get freezing. But all business have a much easier time in terms of setup. They've got the Strangling Prison, which is for sure going to give Slowpoke targets. However, Hardest has targets, 3 of them automatically. Even if Snos goes for the God of Mischief, those doppelgangers do not get cancelled.
Overwhelming Force could be on the menu as well. But Slugger being down is going to make things a lot more difficult. I don't know if Hardest actually got any of the Loki clones there.
Snos pulled them back. He recast them.
Oh, big Znost head. Big brain.
I'll be shipshape in no time.
Yeah, the regen domain got used, and then Znost recast them back in their own ground. So that Kraken Impact got nothing, as there's the Strangling Prison Wombo combo that we expected, but Leaf is making it much harder for Slowpoke to commit into. The ground is lava. Supernova heated up right now, and all business have lost the Wombo combo they were looking for.
Oh, rolling in behind Tuzi. Tuzi at least has a little bit of a team up going through. That's Clozu swapped over now onto the Invisible Woman, just trying to give Tuzi even more opportunities in the air to get one over on Leaf. A real prioritization of a Human Torch tool here.
Tuzi does have Supernova, but Slowpoke's Bionic Hooks and crossing over to this Winter Soldier has been what's opened up this point once more for all business to take advantage of. It's meaning that Beetle 2 is having to really count the time that he's in that backline. He can't stick around as permanently as he was previously.
All right, Tuzi just checking all of the approaches here. They want to make sure we're Tutu's well on top of it whenever anyone rolls on out. Double Thorn Lash Wall just delivering so much damage every time that someone rolls through this area. Beetle taken away for now from the invisible boundary. Is going to have to dive on in to see what's happening in there. Eternal Bond keeps Team Peps sustained, but can Larry survive through all of it is the question. Leaf was caught elsewhere. Maybe Troopers fisted up into the air out of the AoE of the Eternal Bond. Team Peps, though, utilizing the space gained by Larry, have done plenty.
Yeah, Eternal Bond and then Psionic Seduction in such a claustrophobic space. There's not a lot of escape for all business, as Team Peps are going to push a little bit closer towards the spawn, check to see whether or not there's going to be a portal play coming on through for all business so they can avoid the gauntlet of poke that's going to be coming their way if they don't just go straight to that payload. They've got the Strangling Prison. They're going to open up with the Psionic Seduction before Team Peps can try and find the stack.
All right, time to go into the back line. Aura Stealer overwhelmed. Sloper gets exactly the kind of stick that was needed with the Kraken Impact. And I think Larry is still alive in the back. Might actually be more of a hostage situation. Beetle can't break through the wall.
No.
Doesn't have the DPS. And oh no, now Larry's caught elsewhere. This is going to have to be a reset. Team Peps are on the back foot.
I think Leaf as well might have burned the Strange portal cooldown. I'm not entirely sure. As he'd gone to the Strange, now he's over towards the Wolverine, given the fact that Toot is on the group. So he's going to be looking to lumberjack the tree down. As All Business don't have duelist ultimates to continue the momentum, Znost can copy the Eternal Bond and get an aggressive Terror Cape into the entirety of Team Peps' backline. But for now, All Business are having to play respect to the ultimate that is and play for hard as that Kraken impact. Znost can't commit. What a hook! Bionic hook fishes up free!
However, no one gets grabbed by the Kraken Impetus. I believe it was blocked by the Ironwood Wall in the midst of all of this. An attempt at big damage coming through here from Leaf, and there's so much healing behind them. Thanks to the fate of both worlds, everyone's going to be surviving. For now, remember, Leaf can drag everybody out with these ultimates, utilizing the last stand. Tuzi hovers above it all and lays down a firestorm. The pits of hell have opened and flames spews forth into the midst of all this, and that's going to be the last stand. It wasn't delivered to a place where it was needed. He just managed to pin Tutu back into his own invisible barrier, and that means Tutu is hungry for revenge against the Wolverine. Grabbed from the air, but the punish isn't there. Team Pep seem to be falling apart at the seams as Beetle, trying to disengage, gets beamed down by the Emma.
Slowpo is going to be coming back to with Kraken Impact. Toot's got Strangling Prison. Team Peps need to be able to block this Wombo combo. Otherwise, All Business are going to take this round.
Larry rolling through, just giving everyone the speed boost coming through from those bubbles with a Jeff Phalange Shark, a Strangling Prison from Tutu, but doesn't seem to have found much in the way of rewards. Ironwood Wall for now, peels for the groups, and Aurasiel taken down in the back. It had to be Tuzi. It's always been Tuzi. Multiple doppelgangers grabbed on in. It's easy the hardest to clean up on those, but for now, All Business just trying to consolidate what they have with only a singular healer to try and work with. Oh, the overwhelming force from the Thorn Lash Walls is exactly where the fight needed to be. Welshmania is just absolutely dominating around the point. A fully charged beam. Slowpo does not manage to connect with the Kraken Impact, but that's okay because elsewhere the business is getting done, and All Business finish on their signature map.
There was so much invested on the side of Peps. Correctly, they needed to take down Slowpo. They knew that Strangling Prison and Kraken Impact would be available for both of the players on the side of All Business. So Sonic Seduction comes out from DRP, gets the silence onto the Winter Soldier before he can have his ultimate use and have the CC immunity to break free of the spell coming out from the Emma Frost side. But because they're just so busy trying to confirm that pick onto Slowpo, everyone else from All Business is given free reign. And I mean, Tuzi, 44,000 damage done, 40 final, rather eliminations, 21 final hits coming on through from the Torture side. No surprise that he's getting the MVP, but the fact that he was able to get so much damage, but it also resulted in so many eliminations, goes to show that it wasn't just meaningless spam from the Torture side, as every single time Peps dealt with one issue that All Business posed, another one popped up. It very much felt like they were fighting Hydra.
Yeah, usually it's the Tuzi Glaze Club over here, but this was a map where Slowpo really showed what they're bringing to his team, getting the impact frags that mattered the most. I'm thinking back to that Eternal Bond that Larry rolled out on first in what could have been absolute curtains for the All Business offense, grabbing the Cloak and Dagger out of that AoE, using the Bionic Hook and punching them further afield in order to try and deliver the frag, the knockout at the end. That was absolutely massive from Slowpo.
Yeah, I mean, Slowpo had some insane plays even before when he was over towards that Namor, right? Being able to get the Horn of Proteus onto Larry mid-dash, taking full advantage of the fact that Peps didn't have anything to protect the Cloak and Dagger in those dashes. Normally, you can have things like a Magneto where you're like, hey, do you have bubble? In fact, that's a very common, that's probably the most used sentence that a Cloak and Dagger main comms in their own matches on ladder. Bubble me, I'm ulting, please keep me alive in my dashes. And Team Peps just didn't have any way of being able to secure that. Even the vanguards that they're running, and a lot of the times the spaces as well that Larry would be forced into using Eternal Bond. If you don't have something like a Magneto, one of the ways that you can sort of skirt the problem as a Cloak and Dagger yourself is just using your last dash to get towards cover. So Slowpo reads that last dash from Larry is going to be used for cover, and instead of withholding Horn of Proteus for the Cloak and Dagger to be out of the ultimate, coming through the animation where you're locked out of that fourth dash into then transitioning back to being able to play, he goes for the Horn of Proteus early before Larry can dodge away from the damage.
Yeah, just big heads up play trying to shut down Larry's play, because we saw from our stats just how much Larry was delivering on the Cloak and Dagger. It's so important to shut down that strategist, knowing just how much they can output, what the Terror Cape brings to the table. However, as we're tied up 1-1 in our best of 5 series, both of these teams are just clawing for survivability. See who's going to be the one who makes it to the top of the mountain after this break. All tied up here, 1-1 apiece at our first elimination match of the Marvel Rivals Ignite EMEA playoffs, Mox. We got to say goodbye to one of these teams. Oh, I don't want to.
I know. I don't want to. I wish everyone could win, but unfortunately, it wouldn't be esports, you know, without all of the emotion that comes alongside it. And it also wouldn't be esports without the counter-stratting that's come on through. Both of these teams have very evidently done the homework on each other, and you and I, we were discussing in between the break. It does feel like both of these teams are definitely trying to bait the other with the advanced pick and ban drafts of like, we got a Loki through the ban, so that your Winter Soldier can find more value, but psych, that was our trap card that we now get to play, because it's not just put on an absolute Loki as Guardian masterclass on how to play the God of Mischief.
Yeah, it's like, I went to the University of Asgard and I majored in trickery. And the trickery, it was pretty good going up against the Winter Soldier, which is, you'd generally say, could be considered a bit of a counter to Loki, a soft counter when the ultimate is up, because the Kraken impact is just so easy to get those resets, and it really makes the remainder of the team suffer more from the Loki, to be honest. But I think that, yeah, we are seeing this kind of counterplay upon counterplay upon counterplay, layers upon layers. You know, we're deep in the chess game of the draft at the moment, and it feels like all business have a lot more variety to them than maybe teams giving them credit for.
Yes, it feels like one team is trying to play chess and the other team is trying to play checkers at the moment. We'll see whether or not they're both going to be on the same board game this time around, as Peps decide to take us over towards Symbiotic Surface, which definitely means that Captain America is going to be much more of an annoyance, as well as opening up the field for the Psylocke to find far more value on those long wraparound rotations too.
All right, I believe previously here, Team Peps have been getting a lot of value out of Storm Punisher, as we brought up at the beginning of the show. The question is whether all business are going to lean into banning the Punisher here to try and take that away from hardest hero pool.
Oh, there goes the Loki. But let's see if Peps decide to do the same, as all business are going to save the EMEA, so both of these teams going to be able to make sure that EMEA is in play. Peps do not get to go into that triple ban phase, as all business gets one ban into a block 2Z's Psylocke, or potentially Slowpo, as we have seen him actually flex over to that Psylocke that's been taken out in case all business wanted to run the Psylocke and the Torch at the same time. And there indeed comes the expected Punisher ban coming through from all business, and the anticipated Captain America for Washmania.
Notably, the last game was so close that maybe there's a world where Team Peps think we don't need to change our draft here. Maybe you try and ban out the Invisible Woman this time. Like, I know that I mean, banning out the Loki. No, you can't have a Punisher gradient. It's true.
No.
All business kind of win that one by going, okay, we're gonna ban Punisher, so you have to ban Punisher or GG.
Yes, and now Peps are going to use their last save on the Torch, but well, business get a ban. If they want to take the Invis out, they can take the Invis out, but they're actually, and I think this is a better option for them, removing the Psylocke, because yes, it does mean that both teams now potentially get the Susan Storm. It does mean that you don't have to worry about the Psylocke coming on through and just managing to shred your flyer down in a matter of moments before they can even use the team-up ability.
And Znost is going to be happy as Larry once again. Oh, wait, Larry's on the other team. Going to be happy as Larry to be able to play this Loki once more, and that means that maybe there's a world where we have to preemptively pick the Winter Soldier to try and start building towards that Kraken impact. Defensively, it feels like this first point can be a real pain if you can't win it on the first fight off the back of the TP.
Yeah, but you do risk it if you try and run the TP play, because a lot of teams have wised up to the strategy, so now a lot of the time they'll stack if they know that the TP animation is coming on from the attacker spawn, one so that no one gets mugged, right? That no one is immediately grabbed on out and that one pick spirals into a full A take. It will be a stack and then a map flip. That or they'll dig their heels into the high ground and refuse to give it up so that things like that Human Torch gets a little bit more freedom of spaces. 2 on this Groot. Wolf is still up for grabs. That's going to be something that all business are going to have to be very cautious of if they decide to put Leaf over to that one rather than having the Storm for the 12% damage boost from the Goddess boost.
Okay, Portal already cooking here for the side of Team Peps. All business don't have their own Doctor Strange, so we can't run interference on it. Tuesday actually was just getting a little bit frisky when it came to that positioning. Already pulled someone off of the high ground. That's going to have to require a lot of backup here for DRP. Using the Carbon Crush to get back on the high ground means that a major offensive tool is now missing for Team Peps, even though they do have a geographic advantage.
Yeah, but they're boxed in right now. There's so many angles. They're in one small space. And Tuesday's already 40%, despite being missing in action for the first part of the map. He's already 50% of the way to Supernova, though Peps have stacked for a reason. They've supercharged up Eternal Bond, and now they get to be aggressive.
Oh, overwhelming onto Tutu. It's going to take so long for Tutu to get back as well. Wouldn't be surprised to see yet another swap over on to the Doctor Strange to try and portal back in good time. Tutu, yeah, gonna opt into it there. Doctor Strange is returning. It's not easy to actually get the it's not easy to get the portal going on this particular map. However, great play to come on in from Tuzi. Oh no! Oh, Tutu didn't quite hit the handbrake turn.
Yeah.
No Tokyo drift on the portal.
That's really unfortunate too, because Larry got taken down, so all business would have been one strategist up if they'd been able to take the TP fight, but it's not to be, and we roll now into B. At least Team Peps don't have immediate control of high ground, but I mean, Hardest has high ground advantage when he's up in the sky off of a Kraken impact cast, and he's been able to grab out the Doctor Strange, and there's no prescription that's going to be able to stop that hurt.
Ah, here we go again. That pesky mortal with his Kraken impact still. Tuzi and Slopo proving just how mortal the Winter Soldier can be, despite the advantages gained by Team Peps. All business. They win it out on mechanics alone in that case.
Leaf is indeed over towards the Wolverine, having spotted out that Groot. Now that point A has been unlocked, they don't want to try and maneuver the Storm, who is a little bit more static in her movements, against the hold that all business have been able to acquire. There's a little bit of poke or a Stealer just getting all of the claps off of the ice outs to build and keep everyone healed on through. There's a challenge for the high ground comes out. Unfortunately, it's just Beetle on his lonesome, and Watchmania takes advantage of the absence of the Strange to send in the Psionic Seduction.
Beetle's gone up here towards Tuzi. However, inside the invisible boundary is going to be feeling rather... oh my goodness, a 5-person play. That's a 5-man Eye of Agamotto. Will there be good follow-up there? I think that Leaf may have tried to invest the last stand to make it work, but not enough was gained off the back of it. What about a second invisible boundary? Oh, Slowpoke's just getting everything he wants. And a touch more on top. The cherry on the cupcake. Slowpoke, big value. Oh, I'd be so mad if I was Beetle. A 5-person Eye of Agamotto, but the follow-up's just not there.
Yeah, but Team Peps, they've still got ults in this next fight. They do have to worry about all of the poke spam pressure that all business have. In fact, no, they don't. Beetle is going to use the Doctor Strange TP to make sure that Team Peps' approach is as safe as it possibly can be, so they can get started immediately with a Psionic Seduction, and there's been no delay time, so all business have nothing to answer.
Oh, Tutu grabbed and decimated. Just cut into 1,000 tiny little wood chippings by Leaf. That's a great play, though, by Tuzi, instantly isolating and decimating the Lunar Snow. Now it's down to just Larry to try and heal through this. But guess what, Snost? From down on high, those spell fields from the Lokis, they are overwhelming.
Tuzi just melted all of the snowball potential that Peps had access to. Aura Stealer had Fate of both worlds, but goes down immediately under pressure from Johnny. And unfortunately now Team Peps, that was their portal play, Harry. They've got to pick themselves through this gauntlet of fire that all business are going to be able to lay at their doorstep every single time.
Timer should allow for one final TP towards the end of this, I believe, as 3 minutes are about to have elapsed. However, incoming now, you can already see the regeneration domains used, and so Hardest, nice iframe coming through from the Loki to try and dodge that one coming out. However, Hardest is finding pay dirt here already for Make It 5, looking for the last one once Tuzi was dodged away elsewhere, but gets it done. The ace from Hardest. Oh, welcome back, Marvin Rivals.
The Hexer coming on through from Hardest, but all business. They're going to be taking this next fight incredibly quickly. They've got their own Kraken impact to put into play, and they can combo it up with a Psionic Seduction so that Peps can't avoid it. Out comes Washmania's ultimate. Aura Stealer is able to land the fate of both worlds, though, before it comes on through. And now it's a matter of survival. If this boundary ends, so too is fate of the both worlds in 4 seconds. But it's not enough. Slowpoke still gets both of the strategists.
Oh yeah, Tuzi taken down by Vasello ultimate, but Slowpoke still needs to be ended to here. 129 HP to try and work with 2 players afflicted with the curling aura. However, all business, they just have so many players here. Leaf taken down by the Rotter Stern, where Slowpoke just shows how accurate they can be.
Eye of Agamotto is going to be up for 2. Znos with a couple of hits of poke will be able to board up that God of Mischief in next to no time as well. Peps are going to have 1 portal, but they're likely going to be holding off onto it before we get into that overtime play, as Hardest is going to be coming up to the Kraken impact, paired up with Psionic Seduction. But all business, they can split. They can make sure that they're anticipating that Winter Soldier ultimate, and they can pour it out entirely.
Can stop it in his tracks. Hardest. Yet another Kraken impact. Already needs a little bit of pocketing though. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Snowflake go his way. He's going to get a little bit frisky with these early plays. It's going to be DRP opening up here with a Sonic Seduction attempt to try and isolate Welsh Mania, and that's going to be just in time. The Luna ultimate arriving. Fate of both worlds overwhelmed. DRP got a kick into a wall combined with the Rotter Stern. Damage was too much. Nice grab onto the Eye of Agamotto, but still it's going to be Hardest heading into a bag. Marvin rivals returned, resurrected for he hit Bonker's little head. You hate to see it. Beetle just trying to block off the healing onto a Vanguard who are trying to shut this one down. Welsh Mania overwhelmed, I believe, in the midst of their ultimate as well. And recontesting with a portal here is off the cards. It's going to have to be Tuzi trying to make it work just with the vanilla gameplay. Dodges around for a second, but Team Peps keep themselves alive.
Yeah, big strain shield from Beetle to block off the Psionic Seduction cast from Welsh Mania. All business, though, were able to fall down the time bank. 1 minute, 20 seconds remaining for the side of Team Peps. They're going to have a fate of both worlds to amp up an Eye of Agamotto, but Slowpoke's Kraken impact is going to be something that you have to worry about. He's not going to use it, however, until that payload is out from the canyon, as hitting the head is definitely a common occurrence in that one. You have to wait for them to cross into the open space. And Team Peps are going to have to try and take advantage, but Hardest is already down before he can use Kraken impact. The Eye of Agamotto, the 40% damage boost, and Maelstrom of Madness finds the mark.
Oh, great coordination coming through from Team Peps already. Now it's down to Beatles just try and finish it in the aftermath. The fate of both worlds still working over here, and Welsh Mania fully charged. Toot Toot. He's a grass type hero. He's weak to the fire damage from Leaf, and Znos ends up staggering themselves in the back. The cart keeps on rolling.
Kraken impact versus Kraken impact. Hardest versus Slowpoke. Both of them having access to Psionic Seduction, with all business having access to more sustainability. Closest still got his ultimate, and both Larry and Aura Stealer don't have theirs.
All right, Kraken impact onto potentially some mind-controlled players. Closer has their ultimate suppressed. It's the ultimate combination. Had the fate of both worlds ready to go to keep everybody sustained. Welsh Mania gets 2 in the back. Aura Stealer and Larry, how they managed to get both for strategists. Oh, you can't start recalling the doppelgangers now. Closer just manages to escape as best they can from the spawn, utilizing this. And now Hardest has to face everything alone as Tuzi cleaned up in the back. Getting both of the strategists was maximum value. Team Peps has stopped just shy of a full completion.
Hardest, he tries his best. He really tries his best. He tries to use Trooper's Fist to just carry Tuzi with the momentum out of the AoE heal aura coming on through from closest fate of both worlds, but he's not able to find the pick to get the reset. And all business will be able to hold at the final line. We're not going to be seeing any further attacking rounds come on through. It's a matter of Team Peps are able to equalize, and we get to see them walk away 1 map up, or all business shut it out and can start looking to pick up some more momentum in this series.
Either way, one of our gladiators is going to find themselves on match point at the end of this map. And there's no room for extra rounds, as you said.
Old Business start off their defense already with the Cloak and Dagger, the Loki. They're keeping Slowpoke on the Winter Soldier as well. Tuzi's torch has been standout, and I like as well that Toot Toot is going to be starting on out on that Groot, so that you do have the Wombo, that you can use Strangling Prison to have both Supernova follow up or that potential Kraken impact. That is going to be giving Peps serious pause for thought, because if you try and play something like the Wolverine, that's really good into the Groot, but not so good into both the Bucky, where you can get hooked out or potentially force physics out, and also not the greatest into the torch if you're not able to find the grabs.
Okay, Beetle here might try and just do a little bit of a prank portal behind them, try and open up an extra angle, or maybe just put it in front of them and try and send a couple of players off the map. There we go, and goodbye to
Oh, no.
got him.
They can't keep getting away with these. If a tree falls through a strange portal, we hear about it, and I'm sure that's going up somewhere in a highlight montage too. As now Old Business down one of their vanguards, still approach the point so that they can at least keep the ultimate charge race tied up with the likes of Peps, but Beetle off of just that one pick against the Groot, already halfway to I.
Yeah, however, off the back of this, we've got to remember that Portal Recontest not going to be on the cards. Welshmania already grabbed. Oh, did you see that play? Leave to knock back Slowpoke after grabbing the Strange Shiv. He couldn't wrap around with the Trooper's Fist and push Beetle further in. Great defensive play from Leaf.
Yeah, Peps just having some amazing synergy set plays. Just being able to chain the CCs and perfectly draw out an X on the floor so that DOP and Hardest can find their cooldown hits. As Old Business now back to the drawing board they go. Slowpoke is going to have Kraken impact, but Toot has been able to do absolutely nothing on this Groot. And unfortunately that means that Strangling Prison isn't going to be that to confirm all of Peps' positions.
Oh, big grab there onto Slowpoke instantly, even standing within the bounds of flame. Seems unbothered right now for Team Peps. Going to be an exchange coming through. 4 players taken down by the Eye of Agamotto. And while you may be just shy of getting one tap for Culling Aura, makes it a touch easier here. And now just Snost remains in the copied form of the Cloak and Dagger.
Oh,
this
no.
engagement going to be off the table. And it's just going to be reset after reset here for Hardest off the back of it.
They're leaving one. They're leaving one. No!
Oh, hello.
Oh, wait, DRP. DRP took the clone down so they could continue holding the ammo charge, but that means that Hardest has denied his 7-second reset window. So Kraken Impact finally falls silent on the side of Peps. It's going to be Echo Chamber off though for All Business. The Strangling Prison and Kraken Impact to that. Pyro Prison from Tuzi is going to try and space out Peps' side. Out comes the Supernova from Leaf too, and that's going to be played aggressively with the fate of both worlds.
Please walk through my guards in a fire. Slowpoke though, seeing everyone trapped in the Strangling Prison, lays down the Kraken Impact, and the reset after reset is rolling on through. Aura Stealer barely stood a chance. However, time may well have passed enough here for Beetle to have yet another TP back, depending on how early in the preparatory stage they cast it. I have to see if he starts channeling over there. I think the time may already be away from them.
Larry is going to be pretty close to Eternal Bond, but I feel like Portal Recontest on Symbiotic Surface is kind of a bait, because if you go through the portal and you lose that fight on A, you give up high ground control. And against Flyers, you can't give up high ground control. Especially since Leaf has swapped over to the Wolverine, you need to play up close to be able to grab out that Groot. So Pep's going to be prioritizing not a portal replay, they're prioritizing the ground so that they can take this fight aggressively when All Business are out of cards to play.
Oh, Beetle's delivered yet again. Closer, Slowpoke and Tutu all find souls separated from bodies. They've been shoved into the mirror dimension, and they're going to have to bargain with a Sorcerer Supreme for their lives. Amidst of all of this, DRP has managed to close the distance with the Emma Diamond form as well. It's too much for Closer to bear, and Welshmania finds himself with no friends on that defensive play.
Yeah, and now All Business, they enter into a really tough decision. Do you go for a Doctor Strange portal so that you can avoid all of the poke coming your way and that you can secure your Groot into the fight without having to worry about a Wolverine? Or do you just walk up and take it, because if you use the portal, you don't have it in overtime? As Leaf is going to get scout marked out by Tuzi, he has to surrender his position. He's got the last stand though. He's looking to see if he can grab out that Groot and separate Toot and Slowpoke's lineup.
Oh yeah, Toot is now going to be in a position where they can't wall off the incoming play either. Still Slopo thought they saw an opening. Down one, Vanguard slammed into the floor, slammed into the flames as well. The last stand drags Closer from their own invisible boundary. And while they were momentarily incorporeal, forcing them to not be able to get the impact onto Tuzi, it seems that Beetle's on the case up in the air, just whipping them down.
Larry's going to have the eternal bond. Hardest is about to hit another Kraken impact, and we've already seen the synergy between him and Beetle earlier, where that Eye of Agamotto can just blend into the Kraken impact as a follow-through. Watchmania does have the finesse potentially coming on through with a silence from the Psionic Seduction, and Peps anticipate it. They all fall back behind Beetle's shield, disengaging to the crate so that everyone can still use their ults.
Okay, great response coming through here. They give the space, they make the play. Oh, the knockback, it didn't work because he had his back to the ramp, so Closer just sent back Beetle like a centimeter or something. Hardest really wants Nost. Oh yeah, he's going deep for this one. And whilst Nost will be temporarily saved here by the Wolverine, using those regeneration domains so early is not ideal for the remainder of the fight, because now, how are you going to save your Vanguards from the overwhelming damage? The answer is against the Wolverine, you simply don't.
DRP is going to have Psionic Seduction. Leaf's about to get last stand at the same time as Invis boundary for Closer, and that was a portal recontest for All Business, so they're all in on this fight. They can't afford to give up the ground, but Tuzi is the only flyer currently out there. Pyro Prisoners at least buying All Business some payload progression, but Team Peps, again, they're just backing off. They're conserving, consolidating, and building Larry's ult charge.
Leaf's just staring at these duelists menacingly. Doesn't go for a feral leap just yet. It's going to be DRP trying to grab any mind controls that they can. For now, no one seems to be answering the Tinder requests. No swipe right onto Emma. Closer forced into the open is going to be using their disengagement here for a momentary little bit of self-healing into the back. Tuzi just has to disengage away, and it seems like the momentum gained from that portal is not worth it.
Supernova is going to be up for Tuzi, but they have to wait for Toot to come into that Eye of Agamotto, and unfortunately All Business are about to be out of time. Team Peps are going to be in control of payload with overtime, with so many ultimates that All Business just can't afford to disengage.
Can we shut down Nost during the Eternal Bond is the question. Beetle standing up high, trying to block some of the incoming supernovas. The Eye of Agamotto. Oh, Welsh Minions DC'd. Who missed all this? Oh, it might be ruinous for the remainder of All Business. Closer stuck in place for a while inside the invisible boundary, though. All is safe, all is warm and cozy. And I ain't talking about our colleague over in North America, because it feels like Team Peps, even going into a 5 versus 6, are far from cozy.
I mean, Team Peps still have ultimates. All Business the same cannot be said for this team. It's going to be a reliance of regen domain. If Snos gets grabbed by Leaf's last stand, that's it. That's last fight over and done with. And they've still got one Vanguard down. Out comes the portal. Peps taking this aggressively, but all eyes are on the Loki.
All right, towards the top. Toot now doesn't really have that much to play with when it comes to Vanguard, but it looks for that flick over onto a 40% damage, which to overwhelm the Doctor Strange. The Vanguard is taken from the cart, and All Business have simply ran out of time on their map pick. Peps, turn it around.
That's so unfortunate, because you can see, like, All Business, the positioning that they have, they know that it's Nos that has to come through with the clutch. That Loki is so separated from the fight in case it's an aggressive TP onto their exact location. They're ready with the regeneration domain to just immediately prop open one of those doppelgangers in anticipation of where Slopo is going to be setting the checkpoint of that last stand. And it's not to be, unfortunately. Like you said, one Vanguard gets removed from the payload, and no one else is there to carry on the relay race, and Symbiotic Surface is done.
Yeah, just unfortunate there for Welsh Mania. A little DC, look at Hardest with you rarely see the 6 there in the medals column. The Hexa. The Hexa knockout. The big old ace. Unreal performance there from the duelist players of Team Peps.
I love that Peps, like, let him as well. The entire team is still up when they're chasing that last pick, and they let Hardest get the credit for it. They don't let him get the Kraken impact reset off of one of Nost's clones, as TMP yoinks the charge for his own. But Hardest really did just pop up on the Winter Soldier. It's been a standout hero of his since we've seen him just enter into the Marvel Rivals esports scene in general. And Sloper, there were moments too, as we saw on Yggdrasil Path, where his ultimates were doing so much work, where all business were trying to really make sure that he got as many resources as possible to get reset after reset again and again. But Team Peps, it just felt like they had a little bit of a better read in terms of the tempo when we headed into B every single time, understanding, yeah, Watchmania is going to open up the fight with Psionic Seduction. We don't need to use an ultimate to counterplay it. We have a Doctor Strange shield. We all just give up the space. We can grab it back immediately after the ultimate's done, and then we can full play our game when all business are down major resources.
And that's the thing up against the EMEAs for Doctor Strange. While playing in the neutral into EMEA may suck, really suck. But when it comes to going up against that ultimate, if you've been good with your shield resources, if you've been a good little sorcerer, then it's very easy to be able to safely escort your team out of that and then get a good counterplay. Like escorting your cloak and dagger behind cover so they can start using the Eternal Bond in counter when you know that you're about to lose your shield was the textbook counterplay. Yeah,
stroke of genius, easily. Because they know that, like you said, the shield is going to be breaking. Everyone from all businesses shooting it, trying to break it, because if it breaks, that Psionic Seduction grabs everybody. Absolutely everybody on the team. But Larry just needs 1 second where he's not silenced, which means that he can come on through with the dashes of Eternal Bond, which have CC immunity. If you didn't know, there are CC immunity frames that a lot of characters have, and the way that you can actually tell if something is CC immune is that your health bar has a yellow border around it. So things like your Punisher Final Judgment, your Emma Diamond form, Magneto as well when he's in his Meteor Arm statement, all of those things CC immune and all able to use against things like the Emerald.
Yeah, CC immunity can be a really big asset in this game, but there's one thing that you guys aren't immune from, and that's this break. Welcome back, gamers. Team Peps versus All Business. Currently Team Peps sitting in the lead. We have seen a resurgence. I'm getting this weird sense of deja vu, Mox. Like, some of these players were forged in the meta of Season 1 of Marvel Rivals, which was sometimes, which was the better Winter Soldier. They win. And Hardest was kind of forged in that. And right now we're seeming like a very impressive Winter Soldier player.
Yeah, it is beginning to get, you know, just a little bit chilly in here as that Winter Soldier, like you said, has come back into the forefront. Now that Punisher has been banned out, and even though we've seen both of these teams try to make flyers work, Winter Soldier being able to deal quite handily with flyers with his E, being able to just knock them out of the sky immediately and ground them, as well as Bionic Hook being able to nab them out. And if you're flying, you're going to be out in the open for the most part, so you are pretty susceptible to that Bionic Hook pull through coming on out. Both of these teams have been sort of spooked away from things like the Torch, and we get the Winter Soldier mirror match, and it becomes a matter of who is going to be able to give better resources, better follow-up, make sure that Winter Soldier survives as well the cast of the ultimate, because there's a couple of ways that you deal with Kraken Impact, and number one on that list in terms of priorities is take the Winter Soldier down before he takes your entire team down with him.
Yeah, although easier said than done when we have a great triage healer making it through the ban phase at the moment. Both teams are electing to let the Luna slip. So you can stick your Idolora, your Snowflake on the Winter Soldier during that ultimate, and if you are pocket healing him, he's getting like what 150% heals from Luna, which is a lot for those of you who aren't mathematically inclined.
Yeah, Idol Aura is a very strong ability coming on through from Luna, and it doesn't have a cooldown either, so you can just place it on whoever you want as long as you have LOS when the cast comes through. 35% of every single heal that Luna does is then directed over to the target that Idol Aura is placed onto, and like you said, it does stack. So if you're actually healing that specific target, then yes, they receive 135% of the heal coming on through, not just from the primary, but from all sources of Luna healing. So the Ice Arts, that Pierce, yeah, that absolutely takes you from about 10 HP all the way up to full in a matter of claps.
And the Fate of Both Worlds, if you're able to be outside of that aura, All healing from Luna, that's what, like 200 HPS on up to like 4 other targets. I don't know if it counts for healing on herself as well, which it does heal herself. So you could be getting a lot there if you have the Idolora on you. It's great for survivability, especially if you happen to be a Human Torch who's going to be flying outside of like sphere of influence of that ultimate. It's now all business's turn to choose a map, however. So question is, where are we going to go? We're likely to see the Cap and Psylocke banned again. That seems to be Team Peps feeling pretty confident with that, and even the map they dropped was incredibly close over on Idris or Path. So I imagine Team Peps are gonna keep hammering this nail, as it were.
Yeah, the problem for all business is that it's a convoy map. They have to take us to a convoy map. Right off of the rip, you can't go Spider Islands. You can't go Spider Islands. That was the birthplace of the spawn hole that Peps themselves, different roster of Peps, but still some of the players did actually carry on through, right? Hardest was actually one of those players way back when in the Marvel Rivals Invitational that we got to witness firsthand, actually, you and I getting to see him popping on off on that Winter Soldier, being able to take maps against Virtus Pro, coming on up with the free fight minimum strategy, where you start on spawn, and then when you start losing that first fight, you all make sure that you throw yourselves onto cart. Whoever goes down earliest swaps over to the Doctor Strange. You teleport back directly onto the objective. You take a fight immediately, so that when you get to that final fight of the A checkpoint, the enemy team might be so far down in ultimate resources that they just topple over at the slightest breeze.
Like, just burning that time is so important. It's down to Team Peps being a lot of veterans of hero shooters, looking at the game in a more macro lens, you know, taking it not just fight by fight, but like zone by zone, and almost like epoch by epoch when it comes to how you're managing the objective and how you're managing time. All business, I think, have like so much fragging power on their roster. Like, they're all so mechanically impressive, and they've got these little tricks. They've got these set plays. They've got the damage boosted Namor ultimate to shut down the Eternal Bond. Znost recalling their doppelgangers in the midst of an opposing Kraken impact. We're back into bans. It looks like we may see a little bit of a pivot here to ban the Magneto first.
Yeah, so now one side is likely going to be able to get one-sided mag, and the other side is going to be prioritizing one-sided Emma. Emma very, very good at being able to shut down dive play, but Magneto very, very strong at being able to peel. Meteor and being able to absorb ultimates too is huge for the side of Team Peps, because it means that Tuzi's torch can go through, right? You can manage to absorb a major chunk of Supernova with the Meteor Amp. Not all of it, mind you.
Will we see a protect on Captain America here, though, is the question. Or do they want to continue prioritizing their own Emma? No, they're going to go for the Psylocke. Like, we saw Psylocke protected over on Hell's Heaven. And it was Sloper who was playing it rather than Tuzi, which was surprising. They seem to be, they're kind of perma-locking Tuzi on Human Torch at the moment and getting some good value out of it.
Yeah, well, Team Peps immediately taking Emma off of the table, so that we're not going to be seeing double Psylocke. We wouldn't have a concussion. It would just be the team up coming on through, as it's now going to be the Captain America removed, so no follow-up, as I'm not surprised at all. All business, that's 100% to just screaming at the team, as every Vanguard main is fully aware of the pain. Get the Wolverine out of here, please.
Oh, 2 protects used on Duelist. That's a rarity. Question is here, do you want to try and ban out the Loki?
If you're Peps, if you ban the Loki, then you let the Luna through. And the Luna empowers both the Punisher and the Psylocke. But if you ban the Loki, then the regen domain is what you have to worry about. But it's actually going to be the Doctor Strange that they ban instead.
Yeah. Okay, so they're really pivoting to just taking away the Vanguard pool. Maybe trying to force Tutu into playing something like a Venom.
Yeah. Because then you're going to be able to save the Punisher. Punisher will be able to melt Venom. Potentially you also get to play Bucky in the mix too, because Winter Soldier's been able to make it through. So you do have elements of counter dive that Team Peps are going to be able to have access to. But for all business, they went quite heavily now into that Cloak and Dagger ban too. So if 2 does have to go for that Venom or potentially the Hulk, you don't have to worry about Terror Cape on immediate impact with the backline, giving you 28% increased damage from all sources, which just melts a Vanguard's health pool.
It can make them just disappear. I don't know if I've seen too much of Welshmania on the group. I believe usually it's been Toot Toot's area of expertise.
Yeah.
It feels like, obviously, this is going to require quite a feat of flexibility from Toot Toot and Welshmania, as there are 4 Vanguards taken out of, what, 9? 8?
This is definitely going to be potentially a rough one for the Vanguards, but I think by removing the Cloak and Dagger, you've definitely made the dive a lot easier to find the footing, although you do have to worry about force physics. So we're likely going to be seeing a staggered dive come out instead of a full coordinated dive where you would have your Psylocke hit with the Venom or the Hulk at the same time. It's likely going to be Vanguard goes in first, and then after that the Psylocke comes out and tries to go for the hit onto the backline when all of the cooldowns that could have prevented that follow-up have been removed.
It's going to be very necessary here for All Business to also be thinking about their fight timings, as they're not going to have access to a Doctor Strange portal for a last-second recontest if that clock is starting to tick on up. Already, portal has been opened, and they found Slowpoke. Yeah, they hit him with the right-click on Leaf. And there we go. Quick rotation around. This should be an easy point setup, but they are going to give up some high ground here to All Business.
Yeah, but All Business aren't going to be situated on point, which means that Welshmania, the walls are just going to be shredded immediately. If you try and walk down the slope, you go directly into the crosshair that the hardest has been able to set up, and out comes the Goddess boost, and All Business have been just zoned off the point. Team Peps essentially get it for 1 pick.
Oh, Hardest might be ready to ascend here with a shotgun onto Tuzi. Instantly forces for Sonic dash away. You can see that Tuzi has gone deep into their own backline now. Znost overwhelmed by DRP. Oh, the Magneto just puts out so much damage. And DRP is so comfortable on the mag. Great tracking there from Hardest. Beautiful tracking, some might say. And well, All Business, they've kind of been flummoxed.
Yeah, this Groot is just not getting to live. They might have removed the Wolverine, but the Punisher is just as problematic for these Vanguard players, as those walls are getting shredded faster than they can be built. Slowpoke, also having gone down earlier, is not going to be able to keep pace with the final Judgment charge. And because All Business also haven't been able to take long drawn-out fights, the Strategist ultimate charge is not in the greatest of positions either. Team Peps have very much had this one-sided so far.
All right, Goddess boost. Might allow for Bill to get a one-tap off the back of the Eye of Agamotto. I'm not entirely sure on the math right there. Almost has himself a fully charged E, and that could be time to go. Knowing the indestructible barrier is not available, this could be everything for Beetle. Instead, just going to really prioritize taking down that culling turret in the midst of all of this. A strangling prison went elsewhere, and it's time for the Groot to hide away once again. Struck down by lightning from above, the Goddess, the Omega-level mutants, reigns above it all, and a crown of bone has been formed.
Znost is just not in time with the God of Mischief. You have to go for 2 ultimate activation animations, and 2 goes down into banner form, and then Welshmania is out of position away from the AoE of the Lunar ult, which means that Hardest just turns his attention to him instead. Strangling Prison denied. There's no follow-up for All Business. They're coming to this next fight with duelist ultimates, but Team Peps still have an invis boundary.
Still plenty to try and rebuff this one. Walking forward with the final judgment here from Slowpoke. It needs to be so much damage, but can't really see the targets. Goes inside of this. 2 players, 2 Vanguards stunned, and now raining on top of it all. Down comes the weather front. Overwhelming force has now been levied by Team Peps. Leaf is looking strong. This could put them within spitting distance of rolling forward, but Tutu is refusing to lose. Grabs 2 with the World Breaker Hulk, the French Breaker Hulk in this case. A momentary peel coming through. What a nice land that Groot is to make sure that DRP can escape from the Hulk, and Hardest just going to roll back on forward. VIP treatment for Frank Castle. The Punisher with his weaponry just can't be passed.
Yeah, the Hardest on that Punisher. They saved Punisher for a reason, and even though All Business were able to navigate Slowpoke's final judgment past the Meteor M reaction check, invis boundary is still up, and there's just no follow-up damage. Afterwards, Tuzi tries to come through with the Dance of the Butterflies to capitalize on the Strategist being outside of the invis boundary and having collapsed after the 8 seconds passage. And he's able to get 1, but there's just no way for the full team wipe to come on through. DRP on the Magneto was able to anchor the point by himself. Hardest comes back on the Punisher, and he's going to have a final judgment amped up by a fate of both worlds in the first fight. If Peps decide to take the brawl, they might just go for another strange TP onto one of All Business's split-off players.
Susie's being pretty heavily constrained at the moment as well. The triage reactions available for the side of Team Peps are pretty significant, with both the metallic bulwark from the Magneto and the early use of a Guardian shield from him.
Well, here's the Venom that we anticipated coming on through from Toot. Leaf, though, still going to be on that storm. Peps are likely going to swap off of it. If they don't win this first fight, we'll likely see the Winter Soldier come into play for the Bionic Hook against that Venom. But for now, Leaf's got S boost. It does mean that Team Peps have the lead in terms of damage burst that they can do at the beginning.
Oh yeah, and Tutu's definitely feeling the business end of that. Great strangling prison. Tuzi just descended from the heavens. An avenging Icarus strikes down upon these unworthy mortals. And all business finally find their Alpha Strike opportunity.
It's not the Winter Soldier, it's the Human Torch. Leaf is going to be going for Johnny so that they can have not just the Human Torch to be able to deal with the Venom and the Groot, but both of those Vanguards have no option of contest back at the damage that's going to be coming from the sky. But you can also utilize your fire AoEs to get the accuracy marker and try and scout out Slowpoke's position to keep your backline fully knowledgeable of whether we're about to be attacked.
Ultramania going to be grabbing a lot of this early aggro here, but you still got to worry about Tuzi on the off angle. Has not been cleared at all, and the Venom still reigns above it all, ready to drop on down at a moment's notice. That's going to be an extra judgment coming through from Frank Castle. Closer cannot survive this. It was a bad split coming through versus Nos. Nos might be overwhelmed in their own right here, and now the Feast of the Abyss seems to have been thoroughly survived. The second strike, though, from Slowpoke with the Dance of the Butterflies inside the invisible boundary. It seems like Team Peps, they've dotted all their I's and they've crossed all their T's. Every threat that came, they met it with a well-placed guard and riposte.
And a pick onto Welsh Mania as well. Tuzi got taken down too, and target focus, as Peps understand they used Magneto's Meteor M to safeguard Hardest from the damage coming towards the Punisher mid-final judgment. They don't have it to absorb either the Strangling Prison or the Supernova, but now they've got the space, and all business don't, which means the Team Peps can play split, so Strangling Prison catches a minimum amount of players.
Yeah, Tutu getting harassed on the entry here. Welsh and Snost both destroyed by the Eye of Agamotto. The Strangling Prison, though, could be overwhelming. Tuzi makes an impact there. So many players grabbed together. You cannot stand what the Tuzi's cooking.
Beetle tried to stop it. They tried to go for an Eye of Agamotto to get the picks against all business so that they wouldn't commit, that there'd be so many players down. They wouldn't go for the wombo combo because they think the fight's already lost, but it's not to be. And all business will be able to find the flip. Feast of the Abyss is going to be up for Toot, which probably isn't going to get a pick unless Slowpoke is able to follow up the damage off of it, but should give the Venom a little bit more survivability, as there's the Bucky that we were expecting. Hardest swaps.
Yeah, Hardest finally rolling on out, and every player's going to be feeling rather low as they're cooked up here by Leaf. A little bit of French cuisine. It's given a Michelin star for the reason, but Leaf for now just forced to disengage. Dealing with Tutu, forcing out that early usage of a Fate of Both Worlds. An attempted damage boost, I believe, came through onto a Face of the Abyss, and that's done plenty here. All business look to be in a commanding position. Hardest still used the cracking impact, but in a 1 versus 6, to Z or not to Z, the question is, what were Team Peps thinking with that investment?
They're not going to be able to portal. And Burnin' T'Challa goes 1 round to 1 round. We go the full distance after a little bit of a rough performance on Warrior Falls. Stellar Spaceport looks very dominant, as all business will be able to take us all the way over to Imperial Space Station.
All right. Over into the Imperial Institute of Science. Slowpoke's once again going to be able to open up here with a Dance of the Butterflies. It can burst through Aura Stealer's ultimate if you can concentrate a slash onto but one player.
Yeah, and I mean, there is no reason to hold it for Supernova either, because Supernova Strangling Prison combo, yeah, that still manages to find picks through Luna's Fate of Both Worlds, which is 250 heals per second. Infinite's Boundary, 165 per second, measly in comparison. As it looks like Team Peps actually are going to be swapping up strategies. Hardest goes over to the Ultron, and we enter into a triple strategist lineup coming from the French team. And Hardest on that Ultron can keep up the pressure onto both the Venom and the Groot while not being in a position that they can reach him.
And map number 5 would be perfect, Mox. And all business don't want to become small business. They want to continue battling through here. 2Z already has eyes onto multiple flyers, but that hit scan that comes through from the Ultron can be a little bit troublesome when it comes to survivability as a human torch. Welshmania catching some hands here from the Beetle. Super low as Aura Stealer forced to use their ultimate early in the midst of all of this, trying to drag in that Groot into the invisible boundaries. Snost in the back under siege. DRP has to use their symbiotic resilience. Has both the strategist's attention right now. Is going to be able to disengage with their life. Slowpoke, I believe, may have just been destroyed out of their ultimate. Unbelievable intercept right there coming through from Hardest heads-up gameplay from the hit scan.
That's the damage that Ultron brings to the table. You called it correctly. Slowpoke goes down in the milliseconds that they're still tangible before that ultimate comes on through, and it's not a CC either, so that's the full 100% rage lost, not the 50% half-cut budget. And that means the Slowpoke is going to have to build it up yet again. At least you are going to be able to farm it from DRP, but Team Peps with control at this point, having that Venom, having that Torch, can harass all businesses' approach and make sure that that point percentage just keeps building.
Right, like a star. And this is where stars are made, forged by pressure alone. And the fusion power of 2Z is too much for Aura Stealer to deal with. Still, with all of these regeneration domains well broken, there's going to be some damage coming through onto Welshmania. Beetle finds himself up against the wall, though. Up against the entire war chest of all business. The healing is actually given over by Hardest, using their Rage of Ultron for supportive means, keeping Beetle alive in the means of all of this. The Feast of the Abyss in towards the back. Welshmania gets no one off the back of that strangling prison, it would seem, but still Larry was overwhelmed. Just the combination of the Feast of the Abyss and the cellular corrosion, too much to bear for a single lunar snow.
They're still stalling though. DMP is still stalling this side, and Peps have been able to buy themselves 61%. Aura Steel has actually gone over to the Mantis, so we can play even more damage boost onto both DRP's Feast of the Abyss, but also so that you can pocket 12% damage boost onto Leaf, onto Hardest. This is a composition that's been running rampant in Asia to the point that teams are so spooked by the Mantis, they ban it out. They let the Luna and the Loki through, and all business are going to have to face it down now. They've got control of the point. Slowpoke's going to have the dance of the butterflies, but you have to worry about DRP. He's just going to bait all business to have to come to that point and recontest, and that sends them directly into the waiting arms of the Venom ultimate if all business aren't too careful.
Andrew showed us during Schmungus games just what a damage boost their Feast of the Abyss could do, but it seems like it's not even going to be necessary in the midst of all of this. It's for Flyers, Leaf, and Hardest from above, raining down fire. The AC-130 just proves supreme as all business can't survive the poke.
All business had to split the team. Someone had to go contest DRP so that that point stayed in their control, and that means that they don't get to capitalize off of what Strangling Prison could have done for them. And Team Peps, it was just fate of both worlds to make sure that they survive the engagement approach. Final fight territory for all business. They're going to have the Strangling Prison, but so too has Beetle got the Meteor and Hardest isn't even letting them out of choke. Regen domain is the toll that all business have to play just to get onto point.
A backline overwhelmed. DRP caught in place by the Strangling Prison. Beetle above it all tries to shut down the fate of both worlds. Can't quite do that. The healing is enough for now. Leaf has been taken down by Slowpoke. It's do or die for all business. They don't want to be destroyed here, and they're gripping to sentience like it was their entire life on the line. Toot with the grasping tendrils, the dark predations of the Venom, making Null proud in the midst of all of this, as it is a flip in favor of all business, and we start to stagger Hardest.
Yeah, they need the stagger too. Leaf is too close to Supernova. Closer is going to have fate of both worlds, but all business cannot afford that Luna to go down early, and Team Peps have dive components in their composition. It's going to be a matter of protect the strategist or go out of the tournament for all business.
Protect Madam President right now. The K-pop star cannot be allowed to fall, but Leaf, the Supernova in the back pocket, is more than ready to try and acquiesce to those demands. 2Z getting aggressive here, and it's going to be answered by Leaf, trying to make sure this dive is shut down, but Larry's already fallen down. All business, they could be on the edge of grasping this victory with both hands. Leaf might find himself overwhelmed, has to roll on through with a quick dash to try and grab that health back, and now re-enter in towards the back, and Closer still with the Iron Will yet to use the dance floor. Starts to fall down right here, so Closer's going to have to answer the call for healing in the midst of all of this, and it's nice Nice double dash from Slopo. Gets into the Fate of Both Worlds. DRP has himself a Feast of the Abyss. Oh, chomps on through. Managing to take out Leaf. Although DRP doesn't get quite as much. It's the Counter Venom who's getting it done. Beetle just doing their best with the Magneto to keep this one sustained. Tuzi resurrected. Znost came back on the Rocket Raccoon of all things. The Battle Recall Beacon has already got its value, but you might need more than Tuzi to try and make this one work. Team Peps are in control. Hardest is doing that. Look at what Tuzi's doing. He's so evasive. He's dancing for his life. He's dancing for the business, but the business has been closed. It's a foreclosure notice from the French team. Peps take Burning T'Challa in such a absolutely cataclysmic fashion.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate for the side of all business. Like, Closer's got the Fate of Both Worlds, and still they lose one because you're worried about having to withhold the ultimate for the ults to come through from Peps' side. Then Fate of Both Worlds comes out, so they can try and stabilize their anchor hold on the point itself. And for that matter, it's just Peps counting down the seconds. 3, 2, 1, Feast of the Abyss as they all come out of the Luna's Heal AoE. And it's just DRP with all of the damage necessary. They're all in one position. Feast of the Abyss immediately munches down one. And Peps just have the numbers advantage. All business are forced onto heroes that aren't meta, but are fast. Can get back into the fights quick, can provide you potentially a recovery position with the Rocket BRV station being used, but Tuzi is just a little bit too far away from Supernova. He gets brought back with it around 75%, I believe, was the ultimate charge that he was up to, and he doesn't have it to be able to zone Peps' position off of him.
I saw a couple of highlights there from Hardest, known in other games for his nasty tracking, and certainly finding the value out of it there as well. Oh, what a last battle cry. Some might say a beautiful death, if you were thinking Mad Max terms. A glorious falling from all business, but Team Peps, the pivot to the 4 Vanguard bands. What insight they had going into this 4th and final map.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with teams like Berber Patapim, and then also when you try and run any element of dive in this meta. Dive was last season. Dive was last season, and so many of these teams that have players who've experienced either dive from other esports titles, so they have already the macro understanding of how to deal with it, or they went through the fires of dive in the previous season where it was you learned how to deal with dive, or you broke up as a team. If you try and run any element of dive in the current meta, there's just so many options that stop you, right? And perhaps even like they started adapting some of the elements of dive, but when they were running DRP on that Venom, he was going in and he was just disrupting. He was soft diving. He was never hard committing unless he had his ultimate, because especially when Hardest came out on the Ultron, it was all about you look at the Venom, you don't look up. The Ultron does the damage. The Ultron finds the picks instead.
Yeah, and DRP did a great job of making the strategists look at each other, right? Znost and Closer just constantly having to cross heal, survive what the Venom was doing in the back line, and that created a lot of openings for maybe Slowpoke falls through the cracks, maybe you lose Tutu, and we saw Tutu constantly being like the pivot focus, right? Like the second that you get the strategist looking away, everyone looks towards Tutu and tends to be able to overwhelm that group, because you're in the midst of a fight. The Ironwood wall has probably already been popped to try and isolate Beetle, who's on a less mobile Magneto.
Yeah, and I mean, Beetle, every single time we looked from Beetle's POV, he was just keeping the Groot at bay. Like, he was using the right-click, the mag cannon, not to try and find the wombo combo one-shot of left-click, right-click, left-click onto Tuzi on the torch. He was just knocking the Groot back to make sure that Two didn't get those lineups, and I'm so excited, actually, to get Beetle jumping into the interview room so that he can tell us firsthand about his experience with that Magneto.
Hello.
Hi Beetle, welcome to the show. Congratulations on your win. I just want to dive right in with the recency bias here. What was the rationale behind the 4 Vanguard bans heading into Burning T'Challa?
Oh, so basically they don't have any shield, so it's just easy to kill their tanks because they banned all the shield tanks.
And how much did you guys put into the merit of counter-stratting? Because we saw a lot of the time, especially from round 1, like letting the Loki through, was that actually a planned strategy so that Hardest could have better ultimates on things like the Winter Soldier?
I think it's just because they have like weaker players when we ban their DPS. So that's basically it. And I think it doesn't really matter if they have Loki, since he did actually copy like a DPS most of the time.
You are a newer member of this roster, as far as I'm aware, who was originally listed as a substitute. What's it been like integrating into Team Peps, and how's the team culture at the moment?
To be honest, I'm very happy about it because it's like the first game I play competitively. So yeah, I'm really grateful for the opportunity, and I think I'm doing great.
And we've seen you on so many Vanguards now. We've got the Captain America. We've been able to see things like the Magneto. We also got to see you on the Strange as well. In your opinion, because there's a lot of debate over which one is the stronger pick, with EMEA definitely going more towards the Emma and any the Magneto, do you think there is a stronger Vanguard, or do you think it's entirely situational?
I mean, of course it's situational, but I think Mag is definitely the best Vanguard, since he can eat ults with his ult and he can one-shot people in the enemy support ults.
Makes a lot of sense. You've been popping off on the Strange today. For aspiring Strange players, how do you think you get the most value out of the Eye of Agamotto? Because I think I saw you get a 5-man against a pro team, which is kind of uncanny.
I think you just try to use your ult in the enemy support ult, so you just one-shot them through. And you need to keep track of the invis. If she uses her push, then you can go.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Beetle. It's been an absolute pleasure. Congratulations on the win, and we look forward to seeing you and the rest of Team Peps as you continue in your tournament.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, that was Beetle the Stern.